Hi, everybody. Just getting everybody logged on. It's cold. I'm all bundled up in my blanket because I'm cold. Sorry. Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Patty's freezing. Nothing to report there. I'm just cold. So, for anybody that doesn't know, I highly suggest you get a blanket called Rumble. They're amazing. They're waterproof, they're windproof, they're dirt proof. And I love mine. They're made out of recycled plastic bottles. But it's cold where I am in today, so I'm all bundled up in my blanket. Forgive me, but I love my blanket. It keeps me nice and warm. All right. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about? Nobody? Nothing? I get nothing? Do you guys
Patty,
not love me
quick
today?
question. Quick
There
question.
we go. I hear
Uh,
you, David. What you
thank
got?
I just want to verify that for LARSO, it is still a 3-day notice, and then electronically to pay or quit, and electronically it must be filed also at the same time. Am I right? Or is there more to know?
A 3-day notice for LARSO requires that you serve them, you serve RSO within 3 days of you serving the notice. That has to do with anything in LA County that would terminate tenancy. The governing party needs to be served within 3 days of the tenant being served, or the notice is invalid. So any 3-day pay rent or quit, any curable breach of covenant, or any 30, 60, or 90-day to vacate needs to go to the city.
Okay, I'm a little bit confused about when do you do a 15-day notice, 30-day notice? I guess that's why I ask you all these questions.
Okay. 3-day notice to pay rent or quit. And then what we're talking about with a 30-day, a 60-day, or a 90-day is terminating tenancy, meaning you're paying relocation fees. And you're not doing that, David. Okay. So you're just a standard 3-day pay rent or quit in LARSO. What your big thing is you can't serve the notice until your tenant is over threshold amount. So that's the caveat with LA City and RSO is the threshold amount. Okay. If there's Section 8, it requires a 30-day notice to pay rent or quit, not a 3-day.
Oh, I see, 30-day. So Section 8 always has to be 30-day. Also, there is another form that has to be filled out,
It's called the CARES Act. Correct. You got it. But it's not really 30 days. It's more like 45.
Okay.
Sorry, I dropped something and I bent over to pick it up and almost fell out of the chair. I'm cold today, you guys. I don't know why, but I can't get warm. Even it feels like my little fingers are going to fall off. My son says because I'm old and I have poor circulation. I almost punched him in the nose. I don't want to say that I have poor circulation or that I'm old. That's not okay. All right. So anything that's Section 8 or federally funded, to go back to David's question and touch basis on that again. If Section 8 wasn't challenging enough for us as landlords, now we can't serve them with a 3-day to pay rent or quit. It's a 30-day to pay rent or quit for anybody on Section 8 or anything that's federally funded. Not to confuse you guys, but that also applies on the owner's side. So if the owner has a mortgage that's federally funded, example, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, those are federally funded mortgages. Then the landlord always has to use a 30-day CARES Act to pay rent or quit, not a 3-day. So it gets quite challenging when you serve a 30-day notice to pay rent or quit, because what happens is those 30 days don't count weekends or holidays. So it's more like a 45-day notice. And then if the tenant makes a partial payment, you have to reserve a new 30-day pay rent or quit that doesn't count weekends and holidays. So in the event you are required to use a 30-day pay rent or quit because you're dealing with federal money, either on the owner side or the tenant side, please know that that 30-day notice is a nightmare. You don't want to take partial payments on it. because with all due respect, it's more like a 45-day notice. All right, I see something here from Tracy. City of San Diego. Just so you guys know, City of San Diego is starting to act like City of Los Angeles. It's bureaucracy and bullshit at its finest. City of San Diego, landlord is changing lease terms to extend rent payment to the 7th of the month instead of the 5th of the month. Should we also send a letter and also an addendum to the lease before? Should we be extending it at all? I wouldn't be extending it. So I got a question. Okay. Why are they changing the due date? Is it because they're on Social Security, disability, or something of the like? Meaning, did your tenant ask for your rent to be due on a different day because they get their Social Security or disability check on the 7th of the month? And that's why they want their rent due on the 7th? Because if that's the case, you're making a request for a reasonable accommodation based on a disability, and you have to allow it. Okay. So if the tenant is asking to have their due date moved to the 7th of the month because they are on Section 8, disability, something of that, Social Security, disability, there's something else. Hold on and I'll think of it. And if Arlene's in here, she'll pipe in and help my brain work. Watch. And right now she's on here going, oh God, Patty, I don't know either.
Like, I'm trying to think Social Security, disability, or
it's the funds that aren't collectible. So anything, anything where it has those type of funds, you got to be very, very careful with, because if the tenant is telling you, I don't get my Social Security check or I don't get my disability check until the 7th of the month, you have to change their due date. Okay? You have to. It's a reasonable accommodation, not a modification, an accommodation. You're changing the rules for them based on when they get paid. Got it? That's the only reason I would extend.
And I think in general that those payments come in the 3rd week of the month.
Again, it varies by Social Security comes in a different day, disability comes in a different day, and even welfare checks can come in on a different day other than the 1st. So with that being said, if your tenant receives these payments, you must change their due date to accommodate this. It's a request for reasonable accommodations. We are changing because we have a few late payments? No, wait a minute. We don't want to give them more time because they can't pay us. No, leave the due date of the rent on the 1st. The late fee applies after the 5th.
So in order not to do extra paperwork, you could say, okay, just pay on that 10, 15 days later, but I won't do a late charge. Is that okay?
Yeah, but you need to put something in writing changing their due date of their rent to help protect them. Does that make sense? So you can do an addendum stating that you're giving them or you're administering a request for reasonable accommodations to change the due date of their rent based on when they're paid. Now, let me say something else, okay? If someone is a corporate accountant for a living, okay, and they work for, throw me out a name of a business. Anything, you guys, anything. Give me a business. Paramount Pictures. There you go. And they want to change their due date because they only get paid on the 11th of every month because they're on salary. There's no disability there. There's no Social Security. There's no disability payment. So that's not a reasonable request as far as I'm concerned. So that's just up for the owner to decide. If there's Social Security, disability, or welfare involved, then it's a request based on a disability, because look at it this way. They wouldn't have Social Security or disability if they weren't disabled in some way, shape, or form. It's just an easy way to keep yourself out of trouble.
Okay? If you change the due date, you don't have to prorate anything. Still, it's going to be month to month beginning of the 1st, right?
Correct. You're just changing when a late fee applies. That is all. Because let's be real honest here. If your rent's due on the 1st or your rent's due on the 15th, when's your late fee apply? Because that's what matters, is when the late fee applies, not and when the rent's due. Okay. So if they want to change when their rent's due, you can change when their rent's due or when their late fees apply based on that disability. All right, hang on, I'm letting more people in. Some people get paid on the 5th. Here's my theory, you guys, and please follow along. If your rental contract says that rent's due on the 1st and a late fee applies after the 5th, they have a grace period until the 5th. That grace period has to do with when their late fee is applied, not with when their rent is due. So the rent's still due on the 1st. They just don't get a late fee until after the 5th. So when can you legally serve a 3-day notice? On the 2nd, after rent is delinquent. Hope that helped. I have a couple of questions regarding AB 968 and lead-based paint certification required.
Yeah.
Arlene, I happen to be a lead-based paint certified renovator from the Environmental Protection Agency. How can I help you?
Yeah, okay.
I really am. I really am.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to talk offline because I'm gonna need to do that. But I did a seminar yesterday. I just wanted to share some of the things that I learned, if it's okay.
Sure, go ahead. Lead-based paint. What you got? I can tell you.
No.
Well.
I was going to just do AB 968 first.
Okay.
Because I know most of us are landlords, but some of us do own even our own single-family residences.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't aware of this, but according to this AB 968, starting July 1 of 2024, when a seller of a single-family residence accepts an offer from a buyer on or after July 1, the seller must disclose both, number one, any room additions, structural modifications, alterations, or repairs made to the property since title was transferred to the seller that were performed by a contractor, and the name of each contractor who performed the work in excess of $500. So what's that all about?
Hold on, I'm writing this down. Over $500. I can tell you what the over $500 is about. Okay.
They want it. Are they wanting to check and see if you took permits?
Bingo. It's not just permits though. Okay. So anybody that does work on a property that charges over $500 must be a licensed contractor.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, right. So what they want to know is who did the repairs over $500, because those would all have to be licensed contractors. They don't care what a handyman did because it's under $500 and it doesn't require a contractor's license. Oh, so they want to see what repairs you did and if you use a licensed contractor, if you did them illegally. Because if you did something over $500 and you didn't use a licensed contractor, that's a problem.
Hey, Patty, and I know a good contractor, BCB Construction. That's just my thought.
Hey, I'm all open. That's what we're all about here on Widget's Way, is sharing knowledge. Okay.
That's me, man. you know, I'm a licensed one too, and we have.
I got you. But that's a big deal, you guys. And I could tell you part of the why behind this is they want to make sure you're using licensed contractors and not handyman. Example: your tenant moves out and you have to do paint and carpet. The chances are you're going to hire somebody to do the carpet because none of us want a latex strip. I know, because I'm spending my weekends pulling it up. Okay. I really am. So that's why I have no nails. Okay. I'm now learning how to lay hardwood flooring. You guys would be impressed. Okay.
Unfortunately, the same contractor usually often uses a non-licensed handyman to do the work.
Right. Sometimes they do, but their contractor's license is on the hook and they're responsible for the work that handyman does, because they do that a lot. They are the middleman. Okay. But they take the responsibility.
Hey,
but that's
Patty,
what that's
real quick,
about.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So
Go ahead.
remember, as a licensed contractor, as a general contractor I am, everybody I use is a subs, which is licensed. So my licensed electrician is licensed too. One of the things you got to remember too is the payout with a licensed contractor. But secondly, you got to remember, I would say probably 4 out of 10 handyman burn the regular person because they're going after them. But how could you go after someone you know that's not licensed? So you end up probably losing in court half the time. So remember, carpet and paint could be a family, friends. You don't need a licensed contractor for that. But when it comes to anything else, you need a licensed contractor.
You really do, especially to protect your asset. Because think of it this way, if the licensed contractor falls through the roof while installing a ceiling fan, their insurance is going to cover that. The handyman probably doesn't have insurance, and now you're stuck with undoing whatever they did. I hope that makes sense. But you really don't have a lot of teeth going after a handyman because they can't do anything over $500 legally. Okay, legally. So it makes it really difficult for you to go back after them. So I'm always telling you to use licensed and insured vendors. Make sure they have insurance. Make sure you're listed as additional insured or interested party on their policy. So if things go badly, your asset is protected. Okay, hang on. Here we go. JP Hall, we manage a multifamily property in Long Beach, and we are in the process of leasing one of the vacant units. The landlord Airbnb one of the units on the property. Do we have to disclose to prospective applicants that one of the units on the property is being used for an Airbnb? Do you have to disclose to the occupants that may want to rent the property that you, the landlord, live on the premises? Do you have to disclose any of the other residents on the property? It's actually illegal if you do. So no, you don't have to tell them that there's an Airbnb there. Quite frankly, it's none of their business. Okay? Watch yourself with Airbnbs. Some cities are not allowing them anymore, just so you know. Bullshit. Is that LA or state? That is ridiculous. Val, I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about Assembly Bill 968 that kicks in July 1st of 2024, where if you're selling your property and you've done any additions or repairs, you have to name the contractor that did the repairs over $500? They just want to know if you got any permits, you're going to have to disclose that too. It's part of a new sales disclosure. Do you know if ERAP release fund for tenant who is approved and the building is 1482 in City of LA and 7 units under the name of the trust? Do you know if ERAP will release a fund for a tenant who was approved and the building is 1482 in City of LA? I don't understand what you're asking me.
Okay,
If
the tenant approved, and
okay,
they want to.
When are they going to fund it? When are they going to fund it? In other words, the funding is when you get your money.
To the documentation of the owner. I don't know. I heard about limit of 4 units and the real person. I don't know if it's applying for ERAP too. What was the point for ERAP receiving somebody the fund?
A lot of them will lead the tenant along, or it stalls an eviction because the tenant says they have a pending application, but at the end of the day, they might not qualify because the landlord owns more than 4 rentals. Yeah. But you still have to go through the process when they pull it in through an eviction.
Okay? Because they know that she is living in 7-unit buildings. So how they are processing her application because it's more than 4 units. So she is not qualified.
At the end of it, they may say that it's not qualified. They may make an exception to the rule and give her the money.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Yes, you should 1099 anyone you paid over $600, Val, but I can't tell people that. You just did. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification, Patty. No problem, you guys. That's what I'm here for. Do we need to serve tenants with SB 567, the update of 1482, only if the municipality requires it? And the reality is they're advertising this shit on the news. Have you guys seen it where they say, Okay, tenants, get ready because starting July 1st, your landlord can only ask for 1 month's rent as a security deposit. You know what that's going to do? All of our tenants, and I mean all of them that have a higher security deposit on July 1st, are going to tell us to refund the difference. And we're going to have to explain to them that no, that's not how the new law works. How the new law works is if we've already collected a deposit higher than that, we get to keep it until you move out. Once you move out, then we allocate security deposits. But thank you for playing the game. We own a 7-unit apartment building in the city of San Diego. I just discovered that we should supply 2 110 BC fire extinguishers. Took me a while to figure out where you were headed, but I got you, in all units. Do we place under the sink in each unit? Yeah, you can put them under the sink. That's usually where they go, or we have put them in cages outside of each door. That makes sense? So they're mounted in the common area in the hallway outside of each door. How much can we raise the rent this year in San Bernardino County? Is it 8.6%? And is it a 30-day notice to the tenant? No, it is not 8.6%. It is 9.6%. 8.8 in LA County, 9.6 in San Bernardino and Riverside. And what we're talking about is the Tenant Protection Act. Okay. So 8.8 LA County, Riverside, San Bernardino County is 9.6%, I believe. And if you're not subject to AB 1482, then you're at the 10% or more than 10% if you're doing the 90-day notice. I use mostly the CAA rental forms. I have a few vacancies coming up. Did the CAA redo the forms to include all these new crappy rules? Yes, in some cities, they have additional disclosures. So when you're going through your notices and things of that nature, you don't have anything in Kern County you got to worry about, Val. And this is me just talking to you. Make sure you're doing your AB 1482 disclosure that you're exempt from statewide rent control. And you're in Kern County, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But yes, all of their forms are updated. They update as soon as the law changes. CAA is no joke, you guys.
So April 1st, though, instead of 1482, I think that's when you're going to use that 567. I think.
Well, 567 changes 1482. Is that correct?
Correct.
567 modified 1482. So it's just an assembly bill that modified it. It will change 1482 on 4/1 when it becomes law. Does that make sense to you? So yeah, Senate Bill 5
is still going to be valid, you know.
Senate Bill 567 will jump into 1482 and change the rules of 1482. That's how I could explain it. Mm-hmm. Okay, for Tenant Protection Act, property max is 9.6% in Riverside and San Bernardino counties, correct? Single family exempt from the TPA could be 10% or more, but you have to do or more on a 90-day notice, and we can't be in a state of emergency. And guess what? That little rainstorm that we're still dealing with today deemed us a state of emergency. So nothing over 10%. But for the most part,
so the 9.6%, is it a 30-day notice we give them, or you said 90? I'm sorry, I missed.
30 days. Anything over 10% is a 90-day notice. Anything on Section 8 is a 90-day notice. Other than that, you don't want to use a 90-day.
All right, thank you.
And they took away our 60-day notice. There is no more 60-day rent increase. That's gone. So you either have 10% or less on a 30-day, or more than 10% or a Section 8 tenant on a 90-day. There is no 60-day rent increase anymore. What do you know about California's balcony and deck inspection law, Senate Bill 721? You have until January 1st of 2025 to have all exterior walkways and balconies inspected by a licensed engineer or structural engineer or something of the like. That has to be done in LA County for any and all elevated walkways or balconies. Why? I get this a lot. Why, Patty? Why? Because in Berkeley, several, I think it was 6, Irish exchange students from Ireland fell to their death when the balcony collapsed because it couldn't hold the weight of the people that were standing on it. That's bad. Okay. So it has to do with people getting injured, and I'm all about that. Okay. There's no reason those 6 people should have died. With that being said, I encourage you to check your balconies and your walkways, anything that's elevated. So example, you have a stairway that goes up to an upper floor, and then you have a walkway that goes across. A walkway, that walkway needs to be inspected. Anything people can stand on that's elevated more than 6 feet off the ground has to be inspected by a structural engineer by January 1st of 2025. Okay, that's the easiest way I could explain it.
It's only LA County, right?
Statewide.
I can't answer that right now. I want to say it's state of California, not LA County.
I thought it was state of California.
Patty.
It is state. Thank you. And the reason I kind of paused for a hot second is I just had one of my balconies inspected in Apple Valley. And I'm like, that's not in LA County. But I'm thinking, why did I do that if I didn't need to do that? So
Patty,
my brain
please,
works in a weird way.
Patty, please, if you have good contractors or engineers, can you please refer their name to us so we don't.
Well, you're going to have to use a structural engineer, not just a regular licensed contractor can do this. They have to be involved with structural issues, structural engineering. And I'll tell you right now, the best source for you guys is through the apartment association, whichever one they use. They're going to give you a whole list of people that do retrofitting, and that's what you're looking for. Retrofitting. Okay, got it? Retrofitting, that's who's going to inspect for you, is their engineers. Patty, probably cannot recommend one, maybe 3 or more, but not just one. Exactly, Val. I can't do just one, or it's discriminatory or suggestive. But I would get with your apartment association. There's lots of structural engineers out there. And my theory is get it inspected this year, because how many people are going to wait? This law has been in effect, just so you know, since 2018 is when it was initiated, giving us plenty of time to prepare for this new law. But none of us did anything about it. So this year we need to tuck tail and get all this done, because starting January 1st, it's going to be a nightmare if we haven't gotten it done yet. And it is a requirement in state of California. But now we know the why behind it. So, and just remember to have your elevated walkways and things like that raised. Yes, one of the trade shows, there's a ton of people and resources in the exhibit rooms. Exactly. A ton. AGLA also has a ton of people that are doing the seismic retrofitting and the balcony inspections, because they seem to go kind of hand in hand together. Same type of person does both, I guess. I don't know. Remember, I'm blonde. I don't know. All I know is my fingers are freezing and I'm cold. Leave Patty alone. And I love my rumpled blanket. What can I say? All right. I know you guys got, yes, here they come. Here comes more questions. What do we got?
Hi, Patty. Lorena here. I went to a property in Inglewood to do an inspection, and not only did I find somebody having a tenant living in a garage, which I talked to already, and I did the 3-day cure of breach of contract. So that's been done. They got served, and they're getting the person out and returning the garage to its original state. But I also found that they made their own little laundry room where I found laundry. I found washers and dryers. So I need to get those removed. And I asked the one person who they belong to, and he said, "Oh, one of them is mine. A couple of them are from an old tenant that they just left them there." And so my question is, if I want to remove these washers and dryers, do I have to give notice to everybody at the property? And
Yes,
what kind of
because you
notice?
don't know who they belong to.
I don't.
So you're going to not write a notice, you're going to write a letter.
Okay.
Dear residents of the property located at,
Mm-hmm.
I am writing to you because it has been brought to my attention that an illegal laundry room has been erected at the property. There's no permits for this and it can't be allowed. So we will be removing said laundry room. We are giving you 5 days to remove your personal belongings from said laundry room. If they're not removed within 5 days, they will be disposed of for your convenience. Have a nice day.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
That is Patty being really nice and choosing her words carefully.
Exactly. Okay, perfect. And then I have one more question. Like, on one of the buildings, one of the new buildings that I'm managing, they gave me this documentation from the retrofit, where we're able to charge the tenants back. I think it's like $38 a month for like 180 months.
Yeah, depending on what repairs you had to do for the retrofitting. There's a pass-through that you can do, and you almost want to look at it as like a capital improvements assessment, where you can go back through the city and get an additional rent increase because of that retrofitting.
Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
this rent increase, because I added this additional rent to the 30-day that I sent out in the city of LA on the 1st. And I did the rent increase limit, and then I did additionally those $38 because it did have a space for it in the 3-day. I'm sorry, in the 30-day. So that
Did the city approve the retrofitting increase?
Yes,
Okay,
it was
then you
city
can do it
approved.
that way because they approved it. But if they don't approve it, you can't do it.
Right. No, it was city approved. And then in addition, I also did the RSO fees. That's also city approved, right?
Skep fees, yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So it was the cap of the rent raise, the $38 for the retrofit, city approved, and the RSO and SCEP fees. I added all of those up. And okay. Perfect.
That's
okay.
perfect.
Thank you.
That's what I would have done.
Okay, good. Thank
Get
you.
them everywhere you can. No problem. I have a tenant that refuses to clear the common area from his furniture and personal items. I served a 3-day to cure quit, but it wasn't done. What are my options? Send him a letter telling him that his items must be removed from the common area, and if they're not removed by such and such date, they will be removed for you and disposed of for your convenience. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So you have until this date at this time to remove your personal belongings or personal storage from this place that's not allowed for your personal storage. And if you don't remove your items, they will be removed and disposed of for you. So it's a letter that you send. Potentially, if you send him a letter telling him that you're going to charge him to remove it, if he doesn't do it, then you could potentially charge them, yes. We just learned that the tenants at a small triplex are throwing parties like almost every weekend. We heard about it from a neighbor a block away. I suppose we should send a 3-day notice to each unit, plus they are using the electric outlet in the common area for their equipment. The outlet is used for the washer dryer, so I cannot lock it. Any other ideas? You actually can lock it. You just don't know you can lock it. They actually make these things that go around the outlet that have a key to it. So you have to have the key to unlock the outlet to plug things in or unplug things. It's a lockbox that goes over an electrical outlet. They do make such a thing. Yes. Okay. and serve them all with a 3-day curable breach of covenant for having unauthorized parties, too loud. And then I'd start going over there on the weekends. Because let's face it, they do these on Fridays. They do these on Saturdays. Okay, so start going over there on the weekend when you're out and about. Saturday night, when you're coming back from dinner and a movie, drive by the property and see what you see. And and code enforcement could get involved, and then it becomes a sticky wicket for you. All right. Anybody have anything else for me?
Yes. Hi, Patty. It's Melanie. I spoke to you earlier about all the exciting things going on at one of my properties, and I thank you for the information about the bench trial on Wednesday. And I will
that is not a trial by jury. You guys got to understand, when we say trial, it doesn't always mean you're going to trial by jury. It could just be a bench trial.
Very confusing. But
I know.
That's why you're here.
We say trial, and everybody, anytime your attorney says trial, everybody panics. Oh God, it's jury, it's jury.
Yes.
No, it's bench. Calm down.
Well, I'm so thankful for all of the help that you've given me, and I will let you guys know in 2 weeks what happens. Very exciting because he needs to go.
So Melanie brings a great point, you guys. When you guys talk to your attorney and they verbal vomit a bunch of legal terminology at you, it's actually in a different language. No joke. Okay, it's actually written in Latin. Okay, Latin. Go figure. With that being said, sometimes they use terminology that we don't understand because we don't speak Latin. I mean, we might have spoke pig Latin in school, but nothing fancy, right? So with that said, if you get off the phone with your attorney and you can jot down a couple of things you think they said or what they sounded like, call me. I'm a great translator at that. Like Melanie's telling you, I can usually translate what that means in simple English for you. Like interrogatories is a fancy word for questions. Unspeakable quagmire means something is foobarred, and Val will know what foobar means. But that's what an unspeakable quagmire is. Mea culpa means, oh, I'm sorry, that was my fault. But they don't say stuff like this. They just use their terminology and they go through it so quickly. It's like they're speaking in a foreign language, if you will. But I do know how to speak legalese, and I do translate it into simple English for you guys so you can understand it. So like Melanie was saying, if something happens with your attorney and you get all, call me. I will translate to simple English of what that means. It's okay. Don't get panicked when they say we're going to trial. That doesn't mean trial by jury. That probably means bench trial. Okay, and we like bench trials. Us as landlords love bench trials. Not so much on the jury trial. Love the bench trial. Bench trial means you, your tenant, and the judge, and attorneys if need be. All right, anybody have anything else?
Well, it's Melanie again. I do have another follow-up. Thank you for that.
Sure.
One of our tenants in Larso, whose second wave of COVID payment was due on the 1st or this month. I'm just sending him a letter, as you said, for a demand for payment. And he has said via email, because I did have a small exchange with him, that he said that those who have filed for financial aid, there's an additional extension and protection.
No, there is not.
Okay.
No, there is not.
I just wanted your word.
That money is due and payable now. If you've filed to get some kind of financial assistance for that, I'd be more than happy to entertain that. But at this point in time, that money is due and payable now, and I have every right to sue you if you're not going to pay it.
Okay, got it. Perfect.
The way they wrote it, you'll never be able to evict for it.
Right.
You'll only be able to sue them in small claims. Scott, I see your question, but G. Jones has one in front of you, so hang on, okay? G. Jones, during an eviction, tenant said he would respond to the summons. Should the owner have any communication with the tenant, or should the owner direct all communication to the attorney's office? You want to know something funny? G. Jones, and I know you're listening to me right now. Do you know what a response to a summons is? They file an answer. Oh, that's a response to the summons and complaint? Yes, they file an answer at the courthouse. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to discuss this with you. It's now in the hands of my legal team, and you can contact them unless you're giving me the keys or telling me about a repair. I can't help you. Okay. Scott, is crime-free multi-housing program as 2024 in the city of San Bernardino been canceled? G. Jones, don't take the money. It's a ploy, okay? You cannot do an eviction and accept rent. If you accept rent, it voids the eviction. And some people try to tell me, but Patty, I'm not evicting for that. I'm evicting because they got arrested on the property and murdered half their building. You cannot accept rent and proceed with an eviction. It's illegal. If you accept money, the eviction is voided. Okay? We don't want your money. The time for you to pay is expired. We're now seeking possession. Correct. The 3-day notice has expired. The time for you to pay has expired. We are now seeking possession. We are not seeking payment. Got it? Okay. And then crime-free housing. I'm going to talk to you about this, Scott. I don't know what's going to happen with it. And I'm being honest with you because we got to change the name, number one. So in case you guys didn't know, the government passed a law that says that we all can't get together and talk about felons, bad tenants, and things like that, which is pretty much what the crime-free housing program kind of did. But they're going to revamp it, rename it, reboot, and come back again. You watch. They just won't call it crime-free housing. You watch. I got one coming up in the future here. We're just changing the name, trying to stay out of hot water. See, these landlords think, or sorry, I misspoke. These tenants think that at these San Bernardino County crime-free meetings that we sit around and share lists with people that have been evicted. That's not the case. We talk about evictions and how they're being handled in our courts right now and how long it's taking and how long the sheriff takes. We also talk about what crimes to watch for in a property and that people that are coming and going and not staying for a long period of time anymore usually is not drugs anymore. Why? Drugs are legal. If they're coming over and staying for 40 minutes or so and then leaving, chances are you got human trafficking going on, not drugs. Drugs are legal. There's a lot of stuff you learn at these crime-free housing program meetings that have nothing to do with felons or with a problem like they think we're doing, okay? That's not what's going on. They're talking to us about septed and how if you have a building and you have a clear line of sight all the way to the back part of your building without a bunch of trees and bushes that people can hide in, it deters crime from happening at your property because there's no place for people to hide in the bushes because there aren't any. And it's well lit. So they teach us how to avoid crime in a property by environmental design. We're not passing around lists of people that we've evicted or you shouldn't rent to. That's just their inception of what we're doing. But that is not the case. We talk about good lighting, about a clear line of sight all the way back in your community without a bunch of bushes and trees people can hide in. We talk about all kinds of things. But now they're claiming that by us getting together, we're just passing around lists of people not to rent to. It's bullshit. Okay, it's a program that was designed to help landlords understand how to keep crime out of their property. And now they're taking that away from us, saying that we're segregating and passing around lists of people that have been evicted and all this other garbage that isn't going on. Don't get me started. I know the owner won't accept the rent, they want the tenant gone. They're on that road. Just keep on the thing of, I'm sorry, we're not seeking payment. We're seeking possession. It's a nice way to say, I don't want your freaking money. Get your shit and get out. Sorry. But it is a really nice way to say that. I'm sorry, we're no longer seeking payment at this time. We're seeking possession. The time for you to pay has expired. We are now seeking possession. It's a really nice way to just say, I don't want your money. Get your shit and get out. I'm now seeking possession. The time for you to pay has expired. We are now seeking possession. Okay? Super simple language, works wonders, and it doesn't make you look like a jerk. Okay? The original tenant lease was for 2 people in a studio unit. 2 other people were living when the property hands on us. Now there are 4 people. City of LA RSO, how can I create a case? Have you taken rent from the unauthorized occupants? If you took rent at all from the unauthorized occupants, you created a tenancy with them. If not, you can serve them with a 3-day cure or quit to get rid of the unauthorized occupants, and you can do that as of now. Who needs a lead-based paint certification, and how do you do? I'm assuming you're asking me how you get one. Yes, Arlene?
Correct.
You can do them through the apartment association, is usually who teaches classes. I happen to be a lead-based paint certified renovator from the EPA. They teach a class. It's about 8 hours. You get certified. Your certification keeps you up for a year. And then if you hold the certification, just like a contractor can have subcontractors, you as a lead-based paint certified renovator can train your employees on what they need to do to properly clean up. And then you can be the renovator on the job, but have a bunch of people working for you, but you take the responsibility for it to be done properly, just like a licensed contractor can subcontract things out. So can the lead-based paint certified renovator, just so you know. Okay.
So is this something that everybody, all landlords are going to be required to do?
No. Here's what I could tell you, okay, to help you out. And remember, I have the certification, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a property that is subject to lead-based paint, meaning built prior to 1978,
mm-hmm.
you want to use vendors that are lead-based paint certified. In other words, you want your plumber to have lead-based paint certification, because if they disrupt any of that paint, they need to set up containment so that they don't make it infect the entire interior of the property. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to hire vendors at the property that are lead-based paint certified. Or you need to go get your certification and then oversee the work that's being done at the property as the certified renovator, and then tell them what they have to do to set up containment. Because you will learn about a double zipper system. You will learn about the Swifter wipers to clean the area and what's acceptable cleanly and what's not cleanly. And I mean, they take photos of the paper that you wipe the surface with and look at, and whether it's acceptable or not acceptable. You have to take photos of that and put with your documentation. I mean, this is lead-based paint. It's no joke. So it's up to you what you want to do. You either need to hire vendors that hold certification in lead-based paint and are renovators, or you need to become a renovator so you can oversee their work and make sure you are in compliance with lead-based paint containment restrictions. Okay. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
I got certified when that originally became a law, I want to say in 2014, maybe 2015, somewhere in there, 14 to 16, somewhere in there. Okay. That's when I became certified, and I learned a lot. I learned that lead-based paint in adults have symptoms that are different than what children have. And you want to know the 2 most common symptoms of lead-based paint poisoning in adults? Somebody please say yes.
Yes.
Good answer. Thank you, Arlene. Lead-based paint poisoning in adults have symptoms that include high blood pressure and lack of sex drive. Did they just describe half of the country? Those would be symptoms in an adult suffering from lead-based paint. High blood pressure and lack of sex drive. They called on me to answer those questions in the class I took, and I had no problem repeating them out loud. If someone calls me to ask about a previous tenant, what form or letter should I ask them to provide to prove who they are? If I know that the tenant in question has been evicted, can I tell them once I know they are for real? Don't you dare. Look at it this way. If they're already out of your property, they're not your problem anymore. But retaliation is real. Eviction masking law is real. Retaliatory issues against tenants is real. So if they're already gone and out of your property, I would say, yes, I rented to this person. What kind of questions do you have? And I'd answer simple questions. Yes, I rented to them. They lived here from this time to this time. And when they moved out, their rent was this much. Okay, did you ever serve them any notices? Well, of course, there's several notices that are served during a tenancy regarding notice to enter, maybe a rent increase. See, I'm not talking about a pay rent or quit or anything they did wrong. Would you rent to them again if they qualified? Did they pay their rent on time? I'm sorry, that's a personal opinion, and I'm not allowed to disclose that. Be careful what you give in a personal opinion as a reference. If they're already out of your property, they're gone, okay? But they can still come back and sue you for giving them a bad reference, so be careful. And
How
remember,
is it personal if they a personal opinion if they pay their rent on time?
If it happened during COVID, you can't discuss it. They are protected. That makes sense?
Say you refuse to answer questions like this to anyone.
I'm sorry. I don't give personal opinions. You got to be really careful about what information you're putting out there because it can and will be used against you as harassment. So you got to be cautious. And remember, they were protected. You cannot talk about what happened during COVID and if they paid their rent during COVID. That is a big, big problem. Cannot discuss it. So be cautious because anybody that's moving right now, chances are they lived in your property during that protected period, which means they're protected. So you got to be very cautious what information you give out. And then can I tell you guys a secret if you don't already know? Ask them always, would you rent to them again? And if they say, oh yeah, I'd rent to them again. What you're listening for is somebody to say, only if they meet my criteria.
Mm-hmm. That means that you wouldn't rent to them. That's the
they're not gonna meet my criteria. If you hear, would you rent to them again? Only if they meet our criteria. Be cautious. Be very cautious. There's something going on there and they can't tell you about it. It used to be the trick of the trade for property managers. It used to be what we would say as property managers to tell another property manager, they're a piece of crap, run. But we couldn't say that. So we would say, only if they qualify. We used to see that as a big red flag. Oh shit, they've been evicted. They asked for a trial by jury. Something's going on there because they're saying only if they qualify, meaning they know they don't qualify anymore. So what I always say is that's my excuse. Is my personal opinion isn't something that I can give out. So that's the excuse I use of why I'm not telling them about this tenant. That could be considered a personal opinion, and I don't give that out. Remember, if they lived there during COVID and they didn't pay COVID rent, you cannot talk about what happened during COVID. They are absolutely protected. Absolutely. And they can sue the crap out of you if you tell another landlord that they didn't pay rent during the COVID period.
And they didn't pay you back.
Right, right, sister? I hear you. She's got one where the tenant owes her over 80 grand, yeah? 80 grand?
Yeah, please push for that. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. She's got a tenant that held hostage her investment property during the COVID pandemic and didn't even live in the unit. Patty, what do you mean they didn't live in the unit? They moved all their crap out and just went there every couple days to make sure there were no notices on the door and to do their damn laundry. They did that for several months at the expense of this sister right there that has to pay for them to hold the unit hostage? That's garbage. No.
And they put PG&E back in our name too. We still had to pay for that too.
Right. The sisters happened to find a really boisterous property manager that helped them get possession during pandemic and get the tenant out during the pandemic, which is literally unheard of. So
thank you, Patty.
I'm so glad you got possession. Fighting for the money is going to be a whole different battle, as we're learning very quickly that the government isn't too quick to help us. It's almost like they're trying to hurt us for owning investment property. It's garbage. It's garbage. Can you tell I'm a landlord? And if anybody's bored this weekend, feel free to hit me up. I'll be in the high desert scraping up tax strips and painting. I've learned that Widget has trouble pulling up tax strip. I don't have the strength to pop it up, so I have to take the hammer and the little wonder bar and tap the hammer into the wonder bar so I could pry it up, because I just don't have the upper body strength to rip that out. Yeah, you got a trick for it? I want to know.
As a general contractor, just to let you know, there's difference between SB 721 versus SB 326. I'm sending you an email so you can send it to your clients or what have you. Now, just a quick review, that SB 26 is the one where you need a licensed engineered contractor. They have to be in business for 5 years or such. They do the properties like condominiums and townhomes and commercial, which is more of like an HOA. Now, apartment buildings need to be by someone who knows, has been in the business over 5 years, which is a general contractor that teams up with a home inspection company that we are doing. So that's SB 721, that we could do apartments. But we do not do the work because that's double dipping and you never want to go that way. But we have people we can recommend for people to fix if there is any type of inspection. But remember, I'm sending you, there's a difference between SB 721 versus SB 326. Balcony inspections, there's a difference between SB 721 and SB 326. I just sent it to you.
Got you. And it's not just balconies, you guys. It's anything that's a raised walkway.
Correct.
So like I was talking about, think of it this way. If you have stairs going up to an apartment complex and from there, there's a walkway that goes and it has 4 people's front doors, and that whole raised walkway, you have to have that inspected too. Okay, not just balconies, raised walkways. All right, anybody got anything else?
I have a quick question. Is it mandatory to enroll in MLS for somebody who is realtor? Is it not? Is it?
Not necessarily. I'm a real estate broker and I don't belong to MLSs, but I also don't practice real estate sales transactions.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
So if you're doing sales transactions within that multiple listing service, you most likely have to become a member of their board so that you can proceed with the sales transaction, get the information you need from that multiple listing service.
Hey, Patty, last thing, what was the ones where you got all the forms when you were at our office over here and we went, you pay monthly? I know there were just forms because sometimes you say you don't like using the car forms. What was that? Apartments, wasn't there something?
AGLA, the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles, has a plethora of documentation and notices and so forth. A lot of people try to get their leases and their disclosures from their legal counsel. Hear me, okay? Hear me to hear me, okay? Your legal counsel terminates tenancy. They don't establish it, okay? Think about that. So it might not be the best business practice for you to obtain your leasing documents from the people that end tenancy. That would be your legal counsel. They want you to terminate it, right? Your apartment association is a much better resource for you to obtain leases, notices, documents, and also training. I know I'm doing a class for AGLA this month on, I think it's difficulties in leasing right now. Some of us are having trouble getting our vacant units rented. I got a lot of tricks for that, okay? I've been doing this for a long time. So feel free to join AGLA and sign up for that class. I think it's difficulties in leasing. It's later this month. It's something that I'm teaching for them. I teach for various apartment associations. But it's a great resource for us because it provides our notices, our disclosures, our leases, our addendas, it's everything. Okay, it's great. And they do cover San Bernardino County. And I think we're actually going to do a trade show out here in Riverside, San Bernardino area later this year, toward the end of this year. Just so you know.
Thank you again. One more thing. One couple of our agents and Scott got on the line. He just caught the last part. It was 9.6. Could you explain that again? Because there's a couple people just got on the call right now because we were going over that. It's a 9.6. 9.6 we can raise this year, correct? And
under the TPA, under the Tenant Protection Act, which is California statewide rent control, also known as the TPA, the maximum increase for Riverside and San Bernardino counties is 9.6%. We can no longer do 10% under the TPA in Riverside and San Bernardino counties. Does anybody know why? I do. So the Tenant Protection Act or statewide rent control says 10% or less, except for Riverside and San Bernardino counties, which got bumped down to 9.6%. Why? Why did Riverside and San Bernardino County get bumped down to 9.6% instead of 10%? I know it's only 4%, but do you want to know the why? Because they consider that area a metropolis because of Ontario International Airport. An international airport creates all kinds of warehouses around the general vicinity of the airport. Oh, with all those warehouses also comes a whole bunch of apartment homes because all those people that are going to have to work at that airport in those warehouses are going to have to live nearby too. And because it's an international airport, they deemed that area as a metropolis. What does that tell you? If you're an investor, stay the hell away from international airports. They deem them as a metropolis. Sorry. Single family residence is 10%. Do not go over 10%. We are currently in a state of emergency because of the torrential downpours over the last 2 days. San Diego is in a state of emergency. San Bernardino is in a state of emergency. I don't know if LA issued a state of emergency, but I don't know why they wouldn't with all of the beach cities going to be dealing with mudslides in the next week. Because let's face it, all the rain comes, but that's not when the problems end. Sometimes it takes a week or so for all that saturation to happen and the mud to let go, and then we end up with other issues. Anybody have anything else they want to discuss?
Hey, Scott just sent it said, but SFR is 10%.
SFR is 10%, correct, unless you're subject to AB 1482.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Because if you didn't do an exemption, even on a SFR, you're now subject to the Tenant Protection Act, which would put you at 9.6.
Okay, two different people. All right, no sense.
Two different entities.
Well, that's the veterans. SFR is for the veterans we rent to, so that's what
single family residence.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. Anybody got anything else? Otherwise, I'm going to get out of here. All of a
Yeah,
sudden, I'm
Patty,
getting warm. Go
I
ahead.
have a really, really quick question.
I
If
got to
you're
get out of
doing,
my hood. I'm overheated. Sorry.
okay. So if you're trying to evict a tenant, in the city of LA, and they tell you we have an open, application to get COVID relief, and they've given you the application number, is that you can't proceed any longer with the eviction?
I'm going to choose my words carefully. So please follow the leader. Okay. I check with your legal counsel first.
Okay, you're my legal counsel.
I'm
Well,
not an attorney.
Fast eviction is my legal counsel.
Fast evictions is most likely going to tell you to proceed with the eviction.
Okay, even if they've given you the application number.
You're not required to participate.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Not a problem. And look at it this way. I got a whole bunch of people that are like, oh no, I applied for the rent relief. Okay, but I own 15 houses. I don't qualify for it. Oh, but I qualify, so I applied. Okay, here's your 3-day notice. But I applied. I know you did, but I'm not going to qualify. I own 15 homes. But I applied. Okay, I'm going to proceed with a 3-day notice and start eviction. It may pause the eviction and they may give them 30 days to find out what's going on with the application, blah, 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 blah. But for the most part, fast eviction service is pushing through with applications. It doesn't mean they're going to be approved.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
No,
and I've already
it
waited the
doesn't
30
mean
days,
they're going to
actually.
be approved. Exactly.
Right.
So
Okay,
for the most part, they're not stalling evictions. And I'm choosing my words very carefully because I don't want anybody else to go, well, Patty said. Fast evict is moving forward with evictions if they have a pending application because the landlord is not required to participate in the program. If the landlord owns more than 4 residential dwellings, they don't qualify. They're still going to tell the tenant, yes, you've been approved. They have. I haven't. So no, and the landlord's not required to participate. Can you guys tell I'm having a hot flash? Because here goes my hair. I already did my thing. My sweater's going to come off next. It's getting warm in here. All right. Anybody have anything else? Please, nobody say anything so I can get out of this room because now I'm too hot. I need to go cool off. All right, you guys have, see the chat? I got to look at the chat. Okay, Val. Did I miss something? If someone calls me to ask about a previous tenant, tell them you don't give personal opinions and you'd only re-rent to them if they qualify. If you need something else, you can call me, Val. And if you guys are bored this weekend, call me. Come on up to Apple Valley. You can help me paint and pop off baseboards and pull up tax strip. Last Saturday, I ripped up carpet and scraped up padding. That's what Patty did. I know. All right. Anybody have anything else? I'm going to get off of here. You guys have a great weekend. And I wasn't joking. If you are bored, come see me. I will put you to work. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.